Well, hello everybody and welcome yet again to the latest edition of the Inworld Review, where it is currently the 18th of May 2014. I can get it right when I want to, or when I concentrate, more to the point. And I can't bring you the news from Seattle this week, but I can tell you it is suddenly sweltering hot over here in London, in the UK. So forgive me if I sound a bit dreary. What's new? Okay, as I said, you're watching the Inworld Review. We're broadcasting live from Chilbo in Second Life, and we're brought to you in association with A-View TV. And with that, I guess it's on to the show. Now, sad news. Well, it has to happen now and again, doesn't it? We don't have actually Tara with us here today. At the moment, she is on a ferry on the way back from Canada to the North American continent. And, well, we don't want to interrupt her, but I rather suspect the connections on the ferry would not be up to it anyway, even if we could bring her on. So she will be back next week, of course, and she's been having a nice few days, sort of a holiday and family reunion and that stuff. I am, of course, joined, as always, by Maria Kovalov. So, hi, Maria.
Hi, Mel. Thank you for having me again.
And I'm going to take the... I'm also introducing our other guest here today, old friend of the channel. It's Debs Regent. So, hi, Debs.
Oh, nice to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Great. And we were due, maybe are due, I don't know really, to have Ham Rambler, another old friend of the channel, here today, because he did actually have something to speak about. In fact, he had a long conversation with Ebba Oldberg during the week, and I think he was going to bring us up to date on that, but we haven't found him yet. So maybe he will join us as the show progresses. We will see. It's saying, but he did say he was coming, so I don't know. We're all on our lonesome. I'm the single male as usual in the midst of females. Anyway, down to business. Debs can only be here for about an hour or so we're going to move into conversation sort of pretty quickly. I don't know. I should say hello to Petlove too. Hi, Pet. Pet, erstwhile camera woman who's also on the seat beside me.
I was going to write a note in Skype about being chopped liver, but I'm glad you saved me from that.
Yeah, I just, I don't know why. I missed you completely.
It's quite okay.
Yeah, there are four of us here. And I was just thinking, I don't know where it's gone. It's a wandering, but somewhere around here, and I suspect Pet knows where, there is a chicken. A chicken.
Would you like to see the chicken now?
I think we'll see the chicken, yeah, because one of the most interesting posts I found...
It's hanging down there with the cat.
Great. One of the most interesting posts I found earlier in the week was from a site called govtech.com in their education section. And I will endeavour to copy the... where am I? What am I doing? There we are, copy. I'm going to copy it into our Skype back channel so that if somebody wants to pick it up and put it into the channel, they can. The headline is Professor envisions virtual reality lives formals. And it appears that an Iowa State University professor suggested that chickens should be raised in cages more humanely by fitting them out with virtual reality headsets displaying three-dimensional worlds, mimicking a free-range existence. I don't really know what to think of this. I mean, I can't quite imagine chickens wandering around with Oculuses on. They'd be a bit heavy for a poor average chicken. And more to the point, I'm not really sure whether I like this idea or not, because it's well, this is like a dystopian future. For human beings, we're all in tiny little cubicles in an overpopulated world, and we'll live in virtual reality.
I say, if I don't have one, they don't get one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that by the time the Oculus Rift headsets gets cheap enough to put on chickens, we will have vat-grown artificial chicken meat, which I will be all over. I can't wait. and the and those people who want it can pay extra for free-range chickens. So I have a feeling that the factory-grown horrible chickens are on their way out, because we'll have a majority of people buying the cheap
veggie chicken.
Yeah.
Doesn't McDonald's have
stuff?
fake chicken? McDonald's has been making fake chicken nuggets for years, haven't they?
Well, I'm a vegetarian.
Wow.
I'm a vegetarian. And I'm a vegetarian. There's a food over here called Quorn, Quorn, which they flavour it all sorts of different ways now, but in its basic form is sort of mimicking chicken anyway. It's full of proteins and fibre without all the bad stuff. But I did actually read a blog in the week, and it's not one I've got up, which was actually saying that moving into sort of artificially grown meat is becoming essential, because there is just not enough real meat to feed the populations anymore, for those who are carnivores anyway, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I mean, this isn't impossible, but I'm really, but I've seen some horrifying pictures in the past of these chickens sort of nested together and cooped up in these totally inhumane environments, and making a few more inches to give them a virtual reality headset to me not really quite solve the problem.
Can you imagine a chicken with virtual reality headset on? The ocular
I really can't. You also you don't quite know how. We all know how sort of chickens seem to behave, but if their senses were somehow taken over by a virtual environment, how would they actually behave? Would they be jumping up and down on each other's backs, trying to make space for each other because they're chasing some virtual something? Very, very, very interesting indeed. Such is the new appeal of virtual reality now. It seems that every player in the book is actually devising some kind of use of virtual reality. Now, just moving to a couple of the other links here. Most of them obviously come from my business anyway, so we'll get to those with Maria in a sec. But
I've hardly done anything this week, so.
Just
one big one. Just one big thing.
One big thing. Yeah, and
also
press releases and various things that turn up on your site anyway. But this next one I've got is from Discovery.com roots, if Skype works. Yes, there it does. And this is called Virtual Human Body Could Test New Treatments. And there's a rather nice picture in there, actually, though it is not Second Life. I'm not sure quite what platform they're using in this thing, to be honest.
Unity platform?
It's got that sort of feel to it, yes. The caption by the picture says, "Virtual psychologist, human could improve healthcare." But the idea here is, I think the idea is that you would actually have a virtual body connected to you, so to speak, and as opposed to the sort of thing of seeing your general practitioner doctor by video call or virtual meeting. The system would actually allow data about you to be transmitted and examined via the virtual body system. I can't see this coming into play particularly quick. We're still at the Oculus Rift stage. We haven't got kit to put on the whole bodies, but of course wearable tech is coming along by leaps and bounds. And anyway, so scientists over here in the UK at the University of Sheffield are leading the project, and they're going to present their progress on it in this coming week, in fact. So maybe there'll be a bit more about that this time next week. It's all kind of good to see all this sort of virtual stuff popping up, even though some of it beggars belief. Now, the next post I've got here is from Otaku, which of course is vaguely, I think it's connected with the Massively website, isn't it? What it looks like to put your entire body in virtual reality. And some chap has actually set up 3 Kinect cameras in an equilateral triangle and used an Oculus Rift on his head. Where else? And he's made himself a complete 3D a conference room. In brackets it says with some glitches, which you might expect.
I'm just looking at a miasma of hand.
Yeah, there's an animated thing. There is actually a video clip with this, and in fact, if you've watched MetaWorld News, which I posted on this channel yesterday, there's probably about 3 hours of 3 or 4 hours of interesting RL clips, as it were, about interfacing technology this week. It's quite a heavy edition. The example of this chap is actually one of those clips, so you'll find out on MetaWorld News. Now, where are we? Yes, I must get, as a guest here, I'll probably have to plan this in advance at some point, Nick Mitham, who runs the site called K0. We met a lot in the past, but I've spoken to him for ages. But he's got a series up at K0.co. I mean, everybody knows his site because of the wonderful slideshows and stuff he features with data about populations of virtual worlds and commercial uptake, and anything he can make into a chart, he will. And but it's actually got a sort of written series going on at the moment. The latest part 3. I think all 3 parts so far have been this week, but basically it's entitled The Evolution of Virtual Worlds. And in the latest link there, he's talking about user-generated spaces, but he's going for the broad strokes on this reporting, sort of just trying to cover the history of various things. Again, there are a number of videos. He's some of them quite old here. In fact, they're both quite old. That he's put on here as examples. But he's going for a mainstream audience with his site. So this is stuff that a lot of people won't actually see. So nice blog from him. Daniel Voyager reports that Inworld, the Open Sim Grid, or the Walled Garden one, has finally hit the anticipated 100,000 registered users milestone. I think we reported that. We reported it last week as imminent. Now it's happened.
And it's also the first grid to do it. It was just 2,000 people ahead of OS Grid. So it was a pretty tight race.
I think a lot more people will be going to it. I mean, I don't know if you. I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but I know that people who have been in the past very active in the SLB events and have been quite prominent and done some amazing things, and now abandoning Second Life for other grids. Mostly because of the IP stuff. So I think you're right, Maria. I think a lot of people will be exiting, or at least having double
second door
locations or double
right.
doppelgangers. In other
having a backup plan.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, well, that's interesting too. That's another discussion.
It's like double Second Life.
Now, this is rather interesting. But apologies to people watching live. It may just be on. This happens now and again. It may just be on one. It may not be on everybody's screen, but we appear to be broadcasting a black screen, even though our, from what I can tell, from the camera preview here. Oh no, I'm getting a black screen on the camera preview too. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that little glitch. If you was fine, no problem. But in fact, too many of us were seeing a black screen, and it was all a bit hoo-ha. So we've had to reboot the cameras, which I'm afraid will mean a slight delay in getting this up afterwards. But there you go, you can't win them all. Right, I've completely forgotten whether. Oh yes, we were talking about Inworlds, and it is probably the most popular general purpose public grid outside of Second Life, really, and clearly models itself in many ways on Second Life. So there is something that will be in my separate feed somewhere, but there is an exhibition of some sort in World at the moment, It's about ghosts of the internet, or avatar ghosts, and somebody has actually worked a system where you can actually go to this exhibition Second Life and talk to avatars in Inworld. The party stream that goes with the event is actually being broadcast into both platforms, but they've got some way of communicating between the two platforms as well, which sounds rather interesting, though it's something I've got on my list but haven't been to. Maybe somebody else will know more about that. Or maybe they won't, but we'll get to that later. But that was quite a fascinating idea. There are already... and I haven't worn it for a long time, but I certainly did have a heads-up display in Second Life that you can actually purchase. Well, it's free on Franco Grid and various other grids that actually allows you to talk from Second Life chat across into open simulators. You simply have to, the person you're talking to simply has to be wearing the same HUD. And it communicates via the web or the internet rather than via the individual world communications. So it's always good to talk, even if you can't teleport. So OpenSim Metaverse nearly doubles in that. We'll come back to that. That's Maria's. One thing. This is actually a new site, so I blogged it during the week. This is Virtual Worlds education wiki that actually launched during the week. At the moment, it's just a short intro and a sort of list of general resources, but they're looking for contributors. So if you're interested in education in Second Life, World of Warcraft, OpenSim, Unity 3D, or High Fidelity, this is the place they want to hear from you. So good on them. Good to see a nice constructive blog again. Right. Okay. So doing a hypergrid one. Let me move to you, Maria. Give a quick summary of what's new. Then we'll get Debs on there a bit, and then maybe go into the greater conversation later, because I know Debs is stuck for time. So Open Metaverse nearly doubles in area. This, of course, is Open Metaverse. It's not OpenSim, it's actually a grid called Open Metaverse, isn't it?
No. Basically, it's I don't know why I said Open Metaverse. Open Metaverse is the communication standard that's behind it. Kind of like HTML is for the web. The Open Metaverse is the thing that puts it together. The main thing is that all the OpenSim grids put together, right, and all the OpenSim related grids, Inworld, for example, is running a very forked version of OpenSim, and every so often I get a note from them saying we're not an OpenSim grid, and then when I ask, but I don't think they mind when I say they're the most popular OpenSim grid. So it depends on the context in which the word OpenSim is used. But the underlying standard is the Open Metaverse standard. And what happened was that OpenSim 0.8 came out, the preview, not the final release, but the preview release, and it has variable size regions. And some of the grids have been jumping the gun and upgrade early. I do not recommend that people upgrade early. Wait for the official release. All the bugs are shaken out. But one of the grids that upgraded early was the Virtual Worlds grid. They're a small community grid, not a lot of traffic. They've got some free regions for educators that they've set up. That's the main thing they're known for their Virtual Worlds college builds. But what they did was they set up 72 giant variable size regions. Each one of them some huge amount of land, or 1,000 regions each. Basically, 18,000 regions worth of land all at once. So the total now without them, the OpenSim grids would have grown anyway. Around 1,800, somewhere between 1,800 and 2,000 regions would have been added anyway. So the org continues, but these guys just flipped a switch, set aside a couple servers, whatever it is they had to do, and they opened up these regions. These are just land regions, so they're not exactly going to be heavily built up. People are complaining that they're slow and laggy, obviously, because if you got 1,000 regions worth of land, that even if there's absolutely nothing on them, it takes computer resources to model the landscape and so on, physics. The advantage of these regions that the slightly smaller variety than what they have, they just went overboard. They were trying to see how big they can get. But there is useful purpose to this. You can have large sailing areas, huge space battles. You can have a role-playing expedition hiking across the deserts and the mountains and all this kind of stuff. So this is stuff that's not possible in Second Life because land is very expensive and at a premium. And in OpenSim, you can have these wide open landscapes. And that's one of the unique affordances of OpenSim. Is I am actually in favor of grids doing that where it makes sense, not just waste server space on regions that nobody can visit, but if it makes sense, if people can use this land for exploration, sailing, for battles, for whatever they want to do, for simulating ecologies, simulating bird migrations, whatever it is that they want to that requires a lot of land. I'm all in favor of it, and I do like watching the numbers go up. So that for me is a plus. So net neutrality had a decision of a kind on Thursday. The FCC decided to open it up public comment, and it looked like their proposal is kind of a compromise proposal where they can't put this speed for people who don't pay, but it is okay to raise the speed for people who pay extra. And of course, there's nothing requiring cable operators to raise the speed for everybody as it improves. So, in effect, it's a really, really bad proposal. I urge everybody to go out there and to make your voice heard. You've got 4 months to register your comment. This is bad for virtual reality startups. We need the bandwidth, and these startups can't afford to pay for the bandwidth. And if we don't do something about it, then the playing field will be tilted in favor of people who can pay extra, like Facebook, and we'll be living in a Facebook world. So please, yes.
While we're on the subject, I'd like to ask you something, actually, because if anybody knows, you will, but you might not.
Thank you.
Well, my question really is, do you think any of this is happening already, in the sense that prioritization is already being given to certain sources?
It's a big scandal. Netflix has had to pay extra to Comcast to get priority access because they were being blackmailed. The cable companies were slowing down Netflix unless Netflix paid extra to get their movies delivered. Netflix is already paying to get their movies on the internet. Yeah. People are all paying for the band to watch those movies. Yeah. And it was just a plain hold-up. It's like you hold a gun to your head and say, okay, I know you already paid twice. Here, pay me a third time.
The reason...
Totally...
the reason
what they call commerce in the States and Western world. Sorry, but
it's. The reason I ask actually is because at the moment Britain is part of the EU, so net neutrality is actually enshrined in law in Europe. So we're safe. But in the past 10 days or so, I'm like you. I do all my stuff on the iPad, basically. And I have noticed that when I get a link in the feed, it normally the stuff normally comes through the feeds quite quickly. But when I actually come across an article I want to read, or Twitter, or whatever, and want to open it, I've actually found that, 1 second, a well-known site will open really quickly, and then I'll go to another link, which is probably a smaller player, and it just seems to take forever to load. Now, I mean, obviously there are individual websites that can be cluttered with bad JavaScript and stuff. There are other reasons why sites don't load so quick, but I've just noticed it happening more and more. And I'm very impatient with a website that doesn't open while I have a blink.
That has more to do with global caching. Caching. The first if it's badly optimized, if it's got a lot of stuff, will be optimal. A lot of small pictures that take time to load. If it's got a slow database there's a million different reasons for this, including what your neighbors are doing. For example, I have a cable connection which is shared among my neighbors. So around 4 o'clock, when everyone comes home from school and work, the bandwidth drops dramatically because of the way cable connections work. There's only so everybody shares the same pipe. So you're going to get that. You're going to get congestion on the internet. You're going to get database issues. You're going to get regional issues, and so all of those things are being addressed, but then fits and starts. So somebody will fix a database, but your neighborhood might get 100 more people upgrading their bandwidth or signing up for it, or they might get a bigger pipe, and all of a sudden speeds will increase. And also, there's so many things that can happen. It's not related to net neutrality. The Netflix thing that was specifically the example of net neutrality. That was an exact case that's gone public of a specific company being slowed down. They did Netflix specifically because it has deep pockets, and there's a lot of stuff that Netflix puts out because everyone watches streaming movies. So they were big user bandwidth, and they have money to spend. So the cable companies basically they held them hostage. They held their videos hostage, and they said if you want your customers to watch them at a reasonable rate without slowing them down, you have to pay.
The O2 customer you are calling does not have their voicemail set up. Please try again later.
Okay, something is weird here. Do you know, it's really funny, the moment, I don't know how funny the viewers will find this, but the moment we start talking about this subject, throttling and stuff, guess what? Our audio stream went way up the creek. I think most people would be able to catch what was being said, but we got massive interference, and suddenly it's all back to normal again. So whether it was just coincidence.
It's a conspiracy. The NSA, the cable company watching our show, and then counting for most of our viewership, right? the Comcasts and everybody, and the NSA. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll see what we do. The reason you heard that call message, by the way, was we were trying to get Hammer on, who I was told was around, but he's not picking up there. So, okay, we're back channeling to see kind of what's happening with him. Okay, another rather interesting thing here. It might interest one person somewhere who's listening. You had a job position up for grabs in the week in the press release. The Moses Grid want a postdoc for paid research position. Do they not?
Yes. So they're offering that. So if you want to get a doctorate in this kind of stuff, it's a paid position. Kitely announced that they're going out hypergrid this coming week. So very exciting. And Inworld, it has an interesting post up. I'm going to post this into our Skype chat here, so you can see what I'm talking about. They've just lost a $2,000 client for the land because of a forum moderation issue, and so they're adding. They're going to be moderating the forums with a heavier hand, and so basically relations kind of issue. So. There a little bit of sad news there.
Who was the person? Who was the person that left?
They didn't They didn't go into specifics, and I'm not a follower of the Inworld's forums. There's just too much stuff going on. But yeah, so they just posted that yesterday evening.
I've just put another link in the system to fire across. This was we mentioned Unity 3D earlier. This was a announcement during the week from the Unite Asia conference. In fact, that Unity are now developing multiplayer tools and networking tools to be incorporated in their platform. I don't think they're going to build. I don't think they're going to build a virtual world as such. But I mean, it does suggest that multiplayer, having multiplayer facilities will take it out of the field of just being an installation sort of platform and move into.
It was so limited now, though, before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And I've got one last bit of news. Do you want me to hit that before, and then we can just go on?
Yeah.
Okay. So the group out of Beijing, they created an open source version of the Oculus Rift. They're having a Kickstarter. They want to raise $200,000. They've already raised almost 150,000 of it, so it's going gangbusters. It is similar kind of thing as the Oculus Rift, except it's fully open source. Oculus Rift has an open source API, but the internal technology is proprietary. This thing is fully open source, and it's got the wide field of view. It's got the same head tracking that the Oculus Rift has. Slightly different lenses that they're using for the optics, Oculus Rift, which they say is better. And it also comes with a controller. Like with the Oculus Rift, you have to buy the gun separately, or the Razer Hydras separately. This one comes with a little gun-shaped controller that you can use, and it's compatible with the Oculus Rift. So all the games that work on the Oculus Rift will work here, and the price for it, if you want to pre-order it now by supporting the project, is just $270. And the Oculus right now, if you want to pre-order it for delivery in September, is $350. So, very interesting project. I like the fact that it's open source. It kind of helps dispel the fear of we're all going to live in a Facebook world, which I personally am fearful of. So that's a great thing. The in China is interesting. They're moving into the very fast follower category. So we know China is a place that kind of copies our products and makes cheaper versions. They're making this version even before the Oculus Rift is officially on the market, and before the Seas Project Morpheus is on the market. So very interesting. So we're seeing hardware competition and downward price pressure already on this exciting virtual reality. I'm very happy about this project. You guys can go to Kickstarter and check it out. It's called Ant VR, ANTVR.
Right.
Like ant, like the insect.
I think we were losing a bit. I think we've been losing a bit of voice on this again, unfortunately. It sounds like lag, where it's sort of catching up with you. Well, we'll live with it for the moment.
Yeah.
I'm very keen on that.
And it's on the front page of Hypergood Business, so you can go check it out there as well.
Great. I think it's actually inevitable that this has happened, because when you've got a company the size of Facebook putting so much money into a new hardware system and stuff, then, the imitators are bound to crop up immediately. And when I say imitators, I don't mean sort of just imitators. I mean, competitors is what I mean. And China particularly, it's no surprise at all. They tend to be the first to see what's coming and, like you say, make cheaper versions of it. So more power to our pockets, maybe. I actually would find it very interesting if some big player comes out with a product before Oculus Rift could become up as a fully public system. That'd be quite interesting if that happened.
And I have to make a correction about what I said earlier about Kitely enabling hypergrid this week. Kitely's hypergrid is already enabled. I just got an email about it. People have already teleported into Kitely.
Wonderful. And reports are favourable, I take it. The new destination has opened and they're all teleporting in for the marketplace. Maybe.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. I'll have to try that out because I follow Catly quite a lot, but I'm not really familiar with, because it's always been the separate account business. I've never,
it's not really official yet. That they're still working out all the kinks, so don't expect to jump into Kitely right away. People are already doing it, and it's very exciting.
Okay. Well, let's grab. I'm sure there's more to talk about here, but let's grab Debs and Pet a bit more. I've got a brief rundown on my other feed of sort of Inworld things. The highly popular art walk at Raglandshire continues. There've been.
Yay! Please mother laugh when I hear of Raglandshire because they're so cute.
I know, aren't they?
And the art is beautiful. Wonderful art.
Yeah, that's actually what is amazing because everybody thinks of the Tinies and Raglandshire and everything else, which is great, of course. But this is a really serious art exhibition. It's huge. You just walk and walk and walk through masses and masses of art. And, it's not all tiny art or anything like that. It's, serious,
no, it's big real-life art, yeah. That tiny community, they have more artists per group and serious real life either artists or production people, people who are very savvy and who are very dedicated to maintaining quality, really high quality. There's no question in Second Life that they cannot answer. One of them will know. There's like a core group of about 40 of them. And kudos to the Raglan Tiny community. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
I haven't had a clip from them for a while. I mean, there was a time when almost every other week we started the Week in Review show with a Chinese clip.
You're right. There aren't that many.
Start with, but
yes,
it's been a while since I had some. I keep getting ones from Miru's, but unfortunately the clips haven't got any sound, so they don't really make good television.
Oh, that's a shame.
unless I overdub them with my blabbering or something. I have considered that at one point. Anyway, yes, the Raglandshire art walk is there, and you just look up the thing called Raglandshire, I believe, and that will take you where you need to go.
Raglandshire, 2 words.
There's, in fact, I do believe the first of 2 shows is actually happening now, but the Fashion Art Runway show is on today, and I don't normally tweet the fashion blogs and stuff, but I made an exception with this one because it's actually celebrating the concept of fashion as art. There are an awful lot of fashion costume makers or whatever you want to call them involved, and the focus is on artistic creations rather than your average ball gown or your average jeans or whatever. So it does actually sound rather interesting. So if you're interested in both art and fashion, that might be something worth looking up.
What was that called again, Mel?
It's called Fashion Art the Show, and in fact, if you have to wait while my browser opens it, I'll actually give you the link here. Linda Red Devil's blog. Let me see. Never heard of her, but never mind. I'll give you a link for that in here, and you can copy it over. There we go. And what else have I got on this list? Oh yes, now I suspect Pat may know about this. Tomorrow and Tuesday, you probably know in the Real World Recordings department we've shown various recordings of the monthly Silicon Valley for Triviality meetups, and of course tomorrow and Tuesday, I believe it is their actual annual conference, and they will have Philip Rosedale speaking, of course. I believe they'll have Ebby Edberg speaking, but there is going to be a Draxter Dupre is actually moderating meeting with both Philip and Ebbe battling it out on it.
I
don't quite know what that means exactly.
It means it'll be great.
And Ebbe talks about inheriting the past.
Virtual pistols drawn.
Yeah. However, I did get a blog this morning. It's actually dated Saturday, but it was probably late Saturday. Time. I think it was from Aview or something. Basically, if you want to watch this in World, you will be able to watch it at the LEA1 sim. And I haven't actually spoken to La Paisienne or anything today, but I did see some mention also that the events in World may also be transmitted to the RL event at the Computer Museum in San Francisco. So I love mixed reality stuff. You know, you got one feed in one way, you got another in the other. So if you can't catch it on the web, and I don't have a web address for any live broadcast to give you, then apparently you better go in World and watch all the proceedings at LEA1. And whoever's on camera might even show your own avatar to the real world audience. There you go. What more could you need or want? So that's happening. Now, the other thing I was thinking of earlier was also at LEA. It was the Ghost Party, but I'm just looking at that. I posted this 20 hours ago, and it says today at 2 p.m., so I think it's over, but it might be worth checking that out at LEA. The Ghost Party was the one where they were having Inworld and Second Life avatars communicating together. Daniel Voyager reports that it is the Bay City party today as well. They are celebrating what it is. Is it 8 years since Bay City was founded? Does anybody know? Bay City is an area of Second Life. Yeah, it's an area of the Second Life grid. It's actually very popular, but it was one that was sort of not started by the community. It was started as a sort of area by Linden Labs for people doing habit, and over the years it's become quite a popular place for people to live. And obviously they have events and things there a little bit too. Honor Macmillan. WordPress.com, lots and lots of blogs. She's not on the show today, but I always I always go on her about the nifty line for all her blog titles. You know, she's got on gods and photographers in Second Life, themes of solitude, industry, landscape, and more, and really exotic sounding, really exotic sounding stuff. I did run a couple of clips just before we came on air after the Inworld Review titles. There will be more following this show, which in advance of the proper weekend review, which is published tomorrow now. But about the Second Life 11th community birthday celebrations that are coming up. If you are doing anything for the Second Life birthday, the 11th birthday is coming up, Linden Labs, yes, the gods themselves, do want to know. I don't know if they're planning anything per se, but they certainly want to hear from you, presumably so they can publicise the wide range of things the community are actually getting up to. So if you're doing an event for the birthday celebrations, do let the lab know, and they will probably promote it for you if it's of any significance. More importantly, of course, is the Second Life community birthday celebration. This is organised wholly the community. The clips that we showed earlier were just sort of trailers of the clips that Sapphire Widdershins has been putting up, but as was made very loud in this morning's clip, you literally have 2 days, if that, to get your applications in if you want to build something on the sim complex for birthday build. I have, of course, already forgotten, but I'll probably ask Sapphire in the back channel to make sure that I've got one. But anyway, you have, in fact, I will just load that link while I'm talking, actually, so I can give you an address to go for on that. If they close on the 20th, and today's the 18th, so you've got a bit of time. Yeah. A bit of time there, by the look of it. Here we are. Yeah, I've got an Arapace blog up here, so I'll just post this link into the back channel, and that's where you go if you want to get a little bit more about that. Okay, I think that's it for my, that's all my tips. I might have so much in it. I can't find it and I need it, but of course the Inworld feed is usually out of date by the time it gets to Sunday anyway. My mind has suddenly gone blank. It must be this heat, but I think we're going to open up the discussion. Let's start with, I'll go to you, Debs, because we haven't seen you for a while. What's actually happening in your world virtually, and maybe otherwise, Virtual London, of course, in its many incarnations, and...
oh, gosh. Well, a lot of change, I guess. It's getting busy.
Oh dear, I'm losing your voice.
It's true, afraid. Come.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt here, and again, I apologise to listeners. We're not going to drop the stream, so keep watching. But what we're going to do is we're going to drop the Skype call that we're recording audio on and reboot it because we're suffering quite a breakup of sound. So if you just keep watching while we have a couple of seconds of silence, and then we'll be back. And if everybody on this call can actually drop the call, and Petlove will actually call the group back. He said, trying to find his.
Say hello.
Hello.
Hooray.
Hello.
And now for our host. As soon as he answers.
Nope, not yet.
Well, you could probably go ahead and start, Debs, if you want to, because now we can hear you.
Oh, okay,
that sounds crisp and clear.
Yeah. It's
good. Well, yeah, I mean,
except
I don't
for
know if are we live?
Oh, I know what it is.
Are we online?
Yeah, we are. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, well, London has an adult sim due to popular pressure, but you see, the problem is that in the mature sim, people can't even sort of swear or anything like that. And, I think actually the younger people like to swear a lot, to be really blunt. So we've got an adult sim, which is, how can I say, there's no nudity in the street, there's no, it's adult, but it's please respect people, and, we don't want to see all those bits, thank you. And it's also...
What have I missed? What have I missed here? He says, back into the call.
That was good timing.
Is this virtual Soho or something?
No, we tried that. That didn't work. It was a bit too smutty. So this is that was a long time ago. But no, this is sort of you see, the problem in mature sims is you can't do an awful lot. In our sims, you don't swear, you don't, basically, it's respect each other at that degree. But, the adult sim is, it's actually proving very popular. We've got the houses full. I think we've got 2 houses left because people want to be able to do private things in their private land. And, we're very sort of strong in you don't do adult things in mature sims. So we've given away to pressure, and we've got an adult sim as well. That's
good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah.
But it's adult with respect. You're not going to see people with bits walking down the street or anything like that. You're not going to, it's just, it's adult, but without being, how can I, pornographic or blood and gutsy.
Well, it's like the difference between nudity and actually doing things when you're nude, isn't it? It's, one's pretty harmless, the other one can distress some people.
Yeah.
To put it mildly. It's very odd, actually. Right, and what sim is that again? I missed that.
It's a mesh sim. We're converting all sims to mesh now as well.
Oh, great. Okay. Now, that actually reminds me, there's 2 things. Of course, the other thing, this is the sort of thing, if Tara was here, would have been headline news, and that is that Linda Labs have introduced some mesh avatars as their default avatars in the week. And some of them look crap and others look halfway good. But there's been a lot of criticism on two levels. One is, although I believe they're actually addressing this, there's something about the fixed points or somewhere where basically people who get these mesh avatars can't actually do anything with them, like change costumes once they've got them. But the other criticism is that although they might have sparkling mesh avatars for newbies and stuff.
Have you seen them?
I've seen one today.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of some of them. Some of them aren't too bad, but the problem is you can't really do anything with them. And one criticism I heard was that is this a direction Second Life or Linda Lab are actually going to actually encourage mesh as a default? And maybe in the long term, they're wondering about phasing out the old prims and the other technologies. So. I think they would be thinking an awfully long way down the line there, but it's an interesting thing that your default avatar as a newbie now will be a mesh, and you'll have to learn to find something that isn't mesh if you want to start dressing yourself.
They do still offer a group of the like, I guess now there'll be legacy avatars, the ones that we've had access to up until recently. I'm
laughing, sorry. Legacy avatars to me means Ruth.
Yeah, I know, right? To me too, but I guess not to all the noobs, the new noobs.
I think it's the new noobs thing. That's the point here. Apparently, if you sign up for Second Life today and choose a default costume, it will be one of the meshes.
No, you can still get the regular ones too. There are 3 groups. The first 2 groups are the new meshes, and the third group are the people. But it's all people. They got rid of the cars and robots and all that stuff. They're all gone.
That's so wow.
That's a shame, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
God, if it was still around, if Roderick was still around, he'd be scuppered, wouldn't he? No more
robots.
Yes,
he would. Yeah. I think I don't know. I think the new ones appeal to the younger demographic. To a younger demographic. They're all ugly and scary looking to me.
That's interesting that you say that, because
there were a couple that I was sort of thinking, well, if it's free, I might pick up that one. Just so I got a meshy one, which I thought were very reasonably presentable, but they're not me, if you see what I mean. And half the beauty of Second Life is making yourself you, be it a fantasy you or a real world you. You have all those options available. And I'm never been too keen on off-the-shelf products. Anyway, it's much nicer to make your own thing or put your own costume together.
There's a problem with liquid mesh.
Okay, what was it?
Because quite a lot of the viewers can't actually see it.
That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And these new mesh avatars have to be liquid mesh, I would think, to actually be a full avatar. I don't know if I'm right there, but
I know I'm going to get one and check it out soon.
I think I know as far as Firestorm was concerned, and I think various other viewers, they had to discontinue some of their old versions because they aren't compatible with the new stuff in Second Life. I know that, for example, there's certain versions of Firestorm that you can't log in with anymore, though you could quite happily do so a month or so ago. Simply because they don't address the new mesh, the new physics, or the other stuff that's coming online, and the interesting stuff, of course. People will know what I'm talking about there, won't they? Yes.
Yes. Okay. No, I hope not.
I don't.
Now, would you like to explain it, please?
What are you talking about now?
What you're talking about.
Actually, I'm kind of scared, so I think I'll wait on that one.
Okay, no. Basically, there was a beta version of the Second Life viewer called the Interesting Viewer, which Tara spoke about quite a lot. Mm-hmm. And that is now the main client. So if you download the new version of Second Life, the Second Life viewer from Linden Labs, it is the Interesting Viewer. And we always had this little joke about, so isn't it interesting? Oh, yes, it's very interesting. Regular viewers will know that I am obsessed with interesting things. Actually use very interesting things until they become ubiquitous, at which point I get a bit more interested. Sorry about all that. How we
oh dear.
Me. Yeah, I'm getting here. Now, call this the metaverse. I think in this terms I would. There is a platform metaverse, and I've actually just dug up a link that I got in the week, and I was prompted to dig this up by Debs, because I've always thought of Utherverse as a variation on the Red Light District platform.
Yeah, they're the same company.
Me too, when I went to look at it. Yes, I was quite shocked.
They're the same company. Yeah. They're trying to attract a more mainstream audience, and so they're repositioning it in various different ways. But yeah, it's basically they're in Vancouver. They're a version of Second Life. They have a slightly different infrastructure. It's not grid based like Second Life is. It's room based, like the Mars project was.
I find it clunky. The same with the Mars project. The sort of room to room is very clunky. It's not as fluid. It's not as flowing as I think Second Life is.
And it's not as intuitive because it's hard to build up a spatial idea of this place. So it's hard to have an idea of where you are. It's basically a 3D chat platform. Is what it is. It's 3D social chat. Mm-hmm. It's not really a creative world.
No. No, the creativity, when you create stuff, it's very flat, isn't it, compared to, Second Life things. Mm-hmm.
There's a lack of realism in the picture I'm looking at here, actually. But, it's got that familiar... It looks a bit Second Life-y, but it's just not quite so compelling. I've put a link in chat, by the way, if somebody wants to copy it over. It's in twice by the look of it. It's IB Times Co. UK, which is International Business Times. And what is actually interesting is that they describe Utherverse as a massively multiplayer online game, I hasten to add, but they say it currently compromises 100,000 commercial worlds and over 1 million personal worlds, which isn't to be laughed at, even if those worlds aren't actually worlds, they're rooms, if you see what I mean.
It's very big, isn't it? It's very popular, and it's all subscriber. You can only be in the main area, which is like the equivalent to Second Life, entry islands, the info hub areas, unless you pay. Mm-hmm. So, their revenue model is pretty sound. What do you think, Maria?
Well, I'm a big believer that sex does sell, and
definitely.
I am in favor of sales. And I think that proprietary closed systems do have a certain degree of an advantage in that they've got user lock-in. They can charge slightly higher rates, and they can invest more in technology. So you have like the consoles and the IMVUs, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And by investing in technology, they're kind of demonstrating what people want, if they can attract users to it, so that everyone else can just copy it and it becomes mainstream and part of the basic generic platform. So I do think that they have a very good role to play because they're proprietary, because they're closed. I personally would not be a potential user because I want to be able to. I don't
think any of us would.
But I want to be able to own my own content, and I want to be able to control my own environment, and I want to be able to host my environment with multiple vendors. If I get into a fight with one provider, or if they go out of business, I want to move somewhere else. I see them as kind of the equivalent of a Facebook, or a dirtier Facebook, like a MySpace or something. I didn't know what that would be. A grinder.
Risque adult.
They're the grinder of the. If Second Life is Facebook, these guys are the grinder of the virtual worlds. So it's a place you go to for adult chat, and it's it carved out its niche. They're trying to expand from that. and if you have money to spend on that expansion, it might well go somewhere. I personally prefer seeing a more open source kind of more open platform. But you never know. These days with technology, you just never know which one is going to take off. So I'd hate to make any predictions at all about anything.
That the one that will take off will be the one that does the most marketing, because it's always been so in the past. Sony, which was you've got the Betamax versus Sony VHS.
Right.
Then you've got Netscape versus Explorer. You know, who spent the money? Who did the marketing?
Look at American politics.
Well,
that's what it's all about. Yep, that's the way it works now these days.
Except for the internet. We have the internet is something that's standards based without any one individual marketing arm associated with it. And it originally it looked like a sorry excuse for a platform compared to, say, AOL and CompuServe. But because it's open, certain groups of people chose it, like academics were on the internet as opposed to on being on AOL. So I think that there is hope for the open metaverse because of academics, because of small companies that want to be able to own their own space, and because of creative types who want to have their own virtual worlds. But I do think that initially it might well be, like you said, a question of marketing and whoever spends the most money.
Yeah, I think maybe there will be a place for an open source platform. Another thing is that I find really, really interesting is these, you were talking about it earlier, the crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. Because, in the olden days, quote, you'd have to go to a venture capitalist for your money.
Yeah,
and they basically
like 3 years
take
ago.
Your company. yeah, that's the olden days. But they take your idea, they take your money, they'd let you develop it, and then they take it off you.
Right.
And this is a totally different concept. Love it. I absolutely love it. Give power to the people. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see it happening. I just hope the government doesn't try to. When I talk about the government, I actually talk about the New World government, which is, I don't know, the US or whatever.
I think it's a marketing consortium.
Yeah,
that runs the world now.
Yeah, I think big farmers and big. And I don't mean as if old farmer Jim.
No, not the nice old farmers.
Bankers and
the ones that keep those chickens in those little spaces. Those guys, those nasty people.
And they give them little headsets.
Back to the chicken.
Back to the chicken.
Can I tell you my latest bugbear?
Please.
My latest bugbear is ethnography.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do we all know what ethnography means?
Is that like demographics, only with an ethnic base?
No.
Well, ethnography is a psychological, I guess, research method or sociological research method that's designed to explore cultural phenomena. So the researcher is observing the society from the point of view of being the subject of the study. Kill me if I say I'm an ethnographer. This is the latest buzzword in virtual worlds. I'm doing a virtual ethnography. I'm doing a virtual ethnographic study. Cut the BS.
Yeah, but it sounds really markable. It sounds like something I could do.
I'm a psychologist.
And get paid for it.
Drives me nuts. So there you go.
It's a nice big word, It sounds good.
Yeah, I know. And it means I'm studying myself. Like, can't you just say that?
Yeah.
I'm looking at how I interact. Yeah, can't you just say that? Can't you just...
Well, they know that nobody really wants to hear about them.
I'm yet another blogger to hear about my adventures in the virtual world.
But they're using all this pseudoscience, all these pseudoscience words that have a real meaning in them to, do this stuff. And it's just my big bugbear.
Thank you, Debs. I'm going to look into that.
I'm going to change the subject again now, because this is the big thing of the week that I didn't mention at the beginning, but we just got to get in discussion. Have any of you here actually watched the Metaworld News thing I would have put up yesterday on the channel here?
I have not seen that yet, no.
Big apologies.
Okay, that's basically all the real world clips that we used to run at the front of Week in Review have now moved into Metaverse News as a separate program, and I post it on the blog, so it can be read alone. It's basically a compilation of real world interfacing technology and stuff like that, clips that have come up in the week. But one thing we have got up this week, and it's rather long, is and the full story to this really. On Thursday, there was an event scheduled in Second Life called Back to the Future of the Metaverse. And it's had singularity enthusiasts and whatever, but to sort of go, well, sort of what it said, sort of having a look back and looking again at what the future of the Metaverse will be. They had a theologian on. They had people interested in singularities and various things. A very excellent talk from chap I know quite well, David Orban. But the first talk of the event was by none other than Second Life's creator, High Fidelity CEO Philip Rosedale. Now, I can tell you that when you want to broadcast or even have an event in Second Life, you do not put it on one single sim and invite Philip Rosedale. No matter how much undercover you try and keep it and academically focused it may be, will descend on Philip Rosedale more than anybody else in Second Life. He created the platform. They don't care what he's talking about. and they want to gawk at him and say, I was there when Philip rezzed. And
they care what he says.
Can't get away.
Poor thing.
Yeah, well, of course we do. He's a brilliant guy. But, quite frankly, this event opened. I'd been logged in with 2 avatars for 5 hours in anticipation. And, in fact, nobody really did turn up until about 15 minutes beforehand. And it looked as if it was manageable, and I might be able to grab a few clips, up till about 5 minutes to. And suddenly, on the hour, the sim flooded. And it's a pity Ham isn't here, because I think it was Robin Linden's going away do held a virtual Dublin. Oh, yeah. And it was a big party to celebrate Robin's departure. And a guest of honor, of course, was Philip Rosedale. The moment Philip arrives, the sim crashed. The sims plural crashed. And it was exactly the same on Thursday. Philip, we'd perched on the seat in the front row, so got up, got to the podium, missing his feet, and opened his mouth, and boom, everybody had gone. And actually, one of the funny things about this was some rather serious people there, because when they get back into the Sims, Second Life was sending them to newbies Sims, and quite a few people were really offended by what they saw at the default Sim they were sent to. When what you were saying earlier, Debs, about the certain things that will offend people, adults or not. Happened is, thankfully, David Orban, who was there to present, one of the presenters, immediately fired up Google Hangouts, and the whole thing, the whole event happened quite nicely. In fact, using a Google Hangout, Philip started again when he finally got connected, and there were 4 or it represents, looking at the future. And the sort of issues we often discuss on this program, but from, much more academic and the experts basically talking. So it lasts, the version I put up, I've edited so that because you really don't want to see the catastrophe in Second Life, so I've edited it to start where the Hangout starts. But some very, 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 very interesting stuff.
Don't you think, Mal, that all this, we've got Second Life, we've got Twitter, we've got Google Hangouts, don't they all have a place in it together? And it would be lovely when it's all sort of mashed together and manageable, because at the moment we're, log into one thing, log into another, log into a third, and it's not quite so easy.
I agree. The chat during the Hangout was rather interesting because a lot of, as well as chatting about what was being talked about, there was a lot of chat about, oh, this is cool, we should have just done it here all along, and isn't it easier to do it here than, set up a big thing in Second Life? But
you see, maybe Second Life's not the place for that kind of thing yet. Maybe Second Life is not, because you can only have 200 maximum. I mean, maybe you need something where you can have an audience of 1,000 or something listening to one speaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't do that Second Life. You can't.
You can't do that in Second Life. No.
What was even more strange was that I'm not sure we had the Hangout set up in advance, but certainly a couple of the speakers had YouTube clips they wanted to show during their talks, and they couldn't even get that running because there was some problem with YouTube's new API and the Second Life Inworld screens. So one thing you've always got to do is test it out in advance for one thing. But you're right.
But that doesn't work always. I mean,
even live stream here, we can handle an awful lot of people in the channel. And back in the old days, we would just put people on camera and stuff. Google Hangouts have sort of more popularized that function of live stream. But people, stream to Ustream, they all over the place. I mean, but I always say, it's if people are watching this program or any other program I do, hopefully 1 in 10 that aren't in World will actually think, oh, that might be an interesting place to actually go in, download the client and explore it more. But over and beyond that, there's still, it's not the 1 in 10, it's the tens of people to watch, broadcast is still a valid way of bringing an event out. And, a few weeks ago we did Virtual Worlds in Education and best practices. And
talking about education. Carry on. I was just going to say.
Philip was there too. Philip was there too. But of course, we have 4 SIMs, and one SIM was locked down to the presenters and broadcasters, so it was, manageable. But carry on.
It's probably a good idea. Regarding the education thing, I mean, I know there's in colleges and things. I don't know if you know, but they're talking about doubling the numbers or so of students in classrooms now again. I don't know if this is in the UK or the US or where it is, but they're talking about increasing the numbers to make it into a like in universities they have these platforms in the middle that the teacher teaches from, and the semicircles around them. But they're talking about increasing the size of classes now. It's fine in a lecture facility, but if you're trying to teach young kids, you can't really teach them that way.
No.
And
I agree. That's not the way to do it.
Pat is former teacher here, so and it's against all. Actually, Debs, it's against all the trends. Because the trend in education now is not delivery of information; it's guidance. Helping people find their way
to
learn how to learn
that they choose. Yeah. So
do you know about Dunbar's numbers? Dunbar's numbers. If in psychology, there's only like a small group of 5 or 6 that you can actually immediately relate to. So if you're going to do any interactive teaching, to have a group bigger than that, it actually won't work.
Right.
See, we've got a good thing going here because there's like 4 or 5 of us, and you can have a conversation between 4 or 5 people, but you can't do it with many more. You can't do it with 7, for example. It just falls to bits. So how are these kids going to learn? You know, they've got a choice of they're going to have one person standing in front of like 70 of them, or to get them into the sort of 1 to 5 group, we're going to need more teachers, but they're talking about cutting down teachers.
Yeah,
anyway, that's just my
they
little
will not
bugbear.
put the money. They will not put money into education. I heard a statistic on the radio the other day that just sent me through the ceiling. GM, which makes Chevrolet cars, you know, automobiles,
yeah, General Motors, yeah.
They make $35 million a day.
A day?
A day.
I thought you were going to say a month or year.
No. And the reason that this came out was because of they neglected to alert the public to a defect that took place 10 or 15 years ago. And I'm sure everybody knows this better than I do, but 13 people have died over the ensuing years, and they've just finally said, yeah, we should have recalled that. And they were talking about how much they should be fined. And somebody said $300 million, and GM said, oh, no, that's way too much. And it's down to like $25 million. After 13 people died and they make $35 million a day. What is wrong with this picture? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even about fining them. It's about correcting all
Social
the
conscience.
procedures and social conscience. And absolutely. It's absurd. And then you look at important things like education, social organizations that need help, that, you know, we've got people starving and in the streets all around the world.
Yep.
And there's no need for it. Thank you for listening.
Yay!
I know. I think it is absolutely disgraceful. You know, the money
It absolutely is.
governments and corporations are saving is, you know, it's the bottom end where it's needed. You know, just to maximise profits and.
Well, I guess.
So, you know, I mean, kids and education are the future of any society.
And they don't seem to take that into consideration.
You know, if you neglect education and making people, you know, grow up to understand the modern world and everything else and changing times, you know, you're dumbing down the politicians and industrialists of the future. You know, where
that's correct. That's correct.
You know, it's backward.
Only those who will be able to afford the private schools will get better educations. They will become, you know, it's just like I mean, we can rant and rave. I know there are people who say that that's the way the government wants it. They want us all stupid, and I don't agree with that. I think it's just a train wreck out of control. You know, and to fix it, it took us a long time to get to this point, and it won't be cured overnight. But you got to start somewhere. Yeah. But they don't. They just keep taking their money.
That's true.
I mean, I'm sure, you know, these days, you know, in the background, you know, a lot of political movers and things really do think of human beings as traffic management. We're a heavily populated, you know, society. They don't want free spirits in there, but you've got to think of innovation and things like that. I mean, you know, you want to nurture the geniuses and the brains of the future, and they don't all come from the sons and daughters of people who can pay for the high-priced private
scattered
education.
all through the population.
They are somewhere,
every socioeconomic
they
level.
Are somewhere out there.
Yep, sure they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Maria's been very quiet here, you know.
Because Maria knows business as well.
Mm-hmm. Because I have been sending a link to Mel about
about the
communities
online house.
Mm-hmm. And I was looking
that.
I saw that article and I couldn't find it, and I finally figured out why. I actually read it in print. I was looking through my article clipping file and it's not in there. And I'm like, I just read it. I remember making a note of it. Where did I put it? I was looking through all my folders and it was in print.
Was it in the kitchen?
A paper copy of Wired magazine.
I subscribed to Wired. It's the bathroom reading in our house.
I said kitchen to be polite. I was going to say bathroom.
And actually, it's my daughter's subscription. She loves it. I just read it online. I finally tracked down the article online and I shared the link with you guys.
I posted it in chat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. expletive, the first 3 words. The message began. I've just opened it now. So, carry on, Maria. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So you, I think it goes back to you guys talking about education and educating people in behavior. And I think this also ties in with what's happening in Inworld. And previously, we've had similar moderation issues and hyper-good business. And we need to pay more attention to it. We need to pay more attention to it and teach people how to behave online, just like we teach them how to behave face-to-face.
Their parents used to be the ones who were supposed to do that. But anymore, a lot of that is expected to take place in the schools, and the poor teachers can't raise those children.
Well, with online behavior specifically, it's a solitary thing. So your teacher isn't real.
You should know how to act from the get-go. You know what I mean? You don't walk up to somebody and go, kiss, who you never met before. Even if it is a game character. You know? I mean, it's like, hi, how are you? What's your name? And then maybe kiss, whatever.
Right.
Give me your money.
Yeah.
I think this.
Well, see, that's
this
the thing.
isn't just.
If it's an NPC, there's a certain set of behaviors associated with interacting with NPCs. You skip the courtesies, you go straight for something like that. And when you're meeting another avatar and you treat them as if they're an NPC, I think is where a lot of the problems happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But it's also true for online print communities as well. Within Worlds, the problem, for example, was on the forums, where people know that it's other people. There's something about the anonymity of it. There's something about the feeling that you're by yourself here at the computer,
and there are
nobody's watching you. There's no consequences. Yeah. And so what the article was talking about is how to reverse that, how to add some of those consequences in, how to add in social mores, how to add in a little bit of oversight, the sense that you are responsible for your actions, that other people are actually hurt by what you say, because you don't see their reactions. When you swear at somebody directly to their face, they go, "Oh my God," and they start crying.
Yeah,
and you see that, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry, and you moderate your behavior. But if they're crying on the other side of the computer screen, you can't see that.
Yep.
So you don't know what's happening. So, and when somebody is really upset, they typically react by coming back at you and swearing back at you. You don't see the tears and the crying. All you see are the return insults, and it can escalate really quickly. Or else the other person just leaves, and you think, "Oh, I won. I made them go away." So we need to organize better. We need to organize our online communities better for civil behavior. And I think that's what that article was about, and I think that's what Inworld is trying to do.
That is something Philip Linden addressed in an oblique way. There are a lot of social interactions that take place that we don't get the physical cues that we get in real life. And he was big on more facial flexibility to help, express more of our beings, more of ourselves, and maybe that would help what you're talking about. Maybe if it was a little more realistic. I don't know.
I think I've had with that.
Yeah.
With his new.
I've actually seen things in Second Life where somebody has been really offensive, and another avatar is sort of broken down, and you can hear them crying, and that's not a good thing. Actually, in one way, that misbehavior and its consequences is actually conveyed better in virtual environments. So with more tactile responsiveness between that will make a change.
It's the griefer mentality. It's the bullying mentality. It's a shame that those people are out there.
Yeah, but I think these people wouldn't like it done for themselves. I mean, that's one thing that we get. The one reason that London is very popular is because we're really right on top of people with that. We invite greeters to come and say hi to us because they're partly their traffic. They bring other people. They make a video, put it on YouTube. Great, they end up looking a fool. That's fine, because you learn how to deal with them because they don't like it done back to themselves, which is really funny.
It's the bully thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes.
If another guy comes around the corner and he's a better bully than me, the bully's in trouble, and learns his lesson pretty fast. Although I don't know what we do about the other character, but it distresses me more actually what I see on the web. I mean. I use the iPad, for example, to monitor all my feeds, and I get them from Twitters and Facebooks. And the great thing about Flipboard, which I use for the social networks, is that it only shows me links posted by people on my list. It doesn't show me all the gossip. And thank God it doesn't, because I can cope. I mean, it's not only that I don't know. Want to know that somebody's having a cup of coffee in Starbucks here, but it's the fact that some of the language and some of the attitudes that are in the actual posts that I never see.
Yeah, who needs it?
I don't want it. All I want is this wonderful Flipboard that extracts links for me and gives me the links like a newsfeed and gets rid of all the dross. But I came across, and I can't remember where it was in the week, something that was really language offensive. To me, and I thought, it's just like three expletives or something, and then bitch to a woman or something, and it just had no context, and it just seemed crazy. But I'm never been too fussy about language. I mean, back when I was young, with our niche of 4-letter words that we fired off left, right, and centre just to shock the older generation. Fair play. A new generation has probably got that now. I'm not too, prudish about this. But, I get fed up now. I mean, there are certain, expletive words that, they lose their meaning if they're commonplace in language. And, I know people who say effing this, effing that, and effing all over the place while they're talking, and they don't really mind how much effing they do. But, to me, I will use the effing word for power. In other words, I will only use it in a context where it has an effect and is needed. So I wander around and see people in real life who are just talking with this word every second word. I think, what, where's this come from?
And what are you going to do when you really want to have some shock value?
It's true.
Exactly. We're not shocks anymore. But the thing that worries me here, I'm going to throw back to you right now, is this very thing we've actually discussed. It is very real, very obvious, and, there's also a lot more sexual harassment around these days via the web and things than, a lot of it have been eradicated, and it's coming back because of the web and that slight anonymity. Mm-hmm. But my question is, what can we do about it? Because, we can moan all we like, but, you are actually talking of bringing sort of what you might like civil conduct in a principle, not by rote, by rule book, but in principle back to whole generations. There are people, I meet them in Second Life, I read them on the web, who clearly have not got a clue what conducting herself in a civil manner is.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know.
Please.
Yeah, I don't know where we go with it.
There's a big difference between Western society and societies. We live in an individualistic society where there is no hard and fast rule book as to how you behave. I mean, it's not that. It's all about the individuals, about what we can get, what we want. It's me, I. And you contrast that with a society like Japan, where I'm sorry, but if you are born into a low grade in Japan, you will never leave that grade. That's the way they are. But everybody treats everybody with respect. They know their position in society. There's no, none of this problem of the youth disrespecting the elders.
Yeah.
They live healthily into an old age, and all because it's actually a collective society where everybody looks after each other.
Yes.
That's what we need on the internet, I think.
I think the caste system in India used to be a bit like that too. It's very It wasn't equal by any manner of means, but it was a kind of language.
Yes, exactly.
By which people live.
Yeah.
I remember, my father always used to come out with sort of remarks about, talking above your station, things like that. It's not something you ever hear these days, but it came quite naturally out of his mouth. Sort of. You've got aspirations above your station, boy, and there was ingrained, your place in society thing in just that remark. It was, not controversial. It was, wrote in stone. But we want to live in decent societies.
Yes.
And so we're back to the education issue. Really, we need to address what it means to for humans to live together and live in societies. It's not all about studying other societies and getting academic degrees or learning what the new tech will, the future job will be. It's also how to live together and work together.
Yes, exactly. That's what really matters. It's about how we treat each other. Seriously.
Which boils down to how you treat yourself too, and whether or not you respect yourself.
Very true.
A lot of people, I found a lot of students. I worked in a blue collar, let's call it blue collar, like a lower socioeconomic neighborhood, and it was like kids raising kids. It was about what kind of phone or shoes you had more than it was about whether or not you were a decent person. And again, it goes back to the child growing up in whatever environment. If you learn that, you'll get your shoes if you're lucky, as opposed to I respect you and you respect me and we're good that way. If you pin your self-worth on your possessions rather than your the quality of your personality, then you don't have a very deep existence. And society suffers for it. Which is what we're seeing, because it's in epidemic proportions now.
Yeah.
Did
you know that in with the bank? And I'm sorry, but the bottom of this is probably the banking system to blame.
Always, it's always about the money. And money,
Spain,
always.
They're actually got because the economy had gone so bad. People are turning back to barter systems. And indeed in Portugal, which is actually where I am at the moment, the government is trying to stop, because they went from the 1970s, they had Salazar and all the rest of it until sort of the 1990s, so they lost sort of 20 years and they stayed in that age. And now the government are trying to prevent them from bartering. Because the government if a peasant sells a potato and he barters a potato, gives it to his friend, and his friend gives him a stick or something like that for it, he then has to pay something like 5% or whatever percentage is the tax to the government.
Oh Lord!
No money's changed.
That's real practical.
This actually is medieval. Because before currencies existed and things, it was all trade and barter. I mean, naturally, we don't need money if we had another system of trade and barter. The thing is, medieval times, the kings and the warlords and whatever just came around and collected taxes. It wasn't based on the value of the trade and barter. They just came in and said, right, we need this off you for taxes, now carry on. And I don't know about elsewhere. I suspect in America, but the government in Britain here, there's an under economy already, but they're cutting benefits. They're putting people in a position where they can't survive, and all they're actually doing is they are setting themselves up for black market systems that may not be black market in the criminal sense, but there'll be great, there'll be new economies that people work out for themselves to survive, and suddenly, the government will not be seeing any of the revenue or the benefits of that new economy. And the economy is lifeblood. They need the whole society flowing. It's the bloodstream, and if you cut off a limb, the limb will try and survive by itself. But you cut off the bloodstream. So you've cut off a whole part of your society, and eventually the money at the top will actually not have value because it needs to flow constantly. So they're really messing up there. It's the same thing.
They're cutting off their noses to spit their faces.
In the United States, barter transactions are also taxable.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, if they find out about them.
Maybe where they got it from in the Portuguese.
Right.
Well, it's the same everywhere. The idea is that if one company barters with another company by like a significant amount, right, and the books get audited, you are supposed to record the transaction on your books based on the value at the time of the barter. And it makes sense. Otherwise, suppliers would be trading services all the time.
Yeah.
Now for companies, companies aren't usually paying companies don't pay sales taxes on this. So for companies, they come out either way. But when the transaction happens between a company and an individual, that is when that's more when sales taxes come into play and stuff like that, and of course income taxes at the end of the year. So it is in a company's. It's often in a company's benefit, especially for a large company, to do things by the book, and sometimes individuals will get caught up in it. If it's smaller than $600 worth of value, it's not something you have to report. It's not something the government is going to care about. It's more like a hobby than a business. No. If you're selling more than $600 worth of potatoes in return for getting, say, rent reduction or something like that, then that would be going from a hobby kind of thing to that's more like a business kind of operation, and you should be. If you're running a business, you are using the infrastructure the government provides you, and you should be chipping in some small amount towards it. So,
yeah, that makes
it's very odd. I went in the past couple of weeks. I went on PayPal twice to get some, little bits of software. One piece of software I found, and I thought it was too expensive, but I was thinking, I might just get this. And then I clicked pay and everything to take me through to the PayPal thing, and this thing had suddenly gone up by 25% because presumably they detected I was in the UK, and it didn't say it was VAT. But it sort of smelled of VAT rates, basically. And then I got something literally a couple of days ago that I saw advertised in dollar price, and my PayPal's in dollars, and then I went to that and there was no change. So I already see this sort of seeping in. Obviously I went to one site, and it obviously wasn't the fault of PayPal because they would have levied it at any site I went to. It was obviously the sites that I went to purchase from, and even though it was a USA site and the amount was dollars, it seemed to know where I was coming from, and it seemed to be putting taxes on it. And but it's actually, if nothing else, it's rather confusing because if you automatically know that tax is going to be added, you would think before you clicked. But when you don't know until you've actually got to the checkout, as it were, it's very, very confusing. But it's clearly small transactions haven't really been noticed before, but it's clear to me that the government over here now is taxing even the small transactions. More
they
and
keep
more.
finding things to add, don't they? They really do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's a theoretical change, isn't there, between what the public will stand for taxes, and it used to be 40%. There used to be a sort of a theory of taxation that they could get away with up to 40%. Now, in Britain with VAT and everything, I'm sure they must be getting. Goodness knows, what do you reckon? 60, 70%?
50 or 60 at least.
Yeah, at least, yeah. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Mind-boggling.
It's even more I mean, if you count people who smoke and or drink, they're even paying duty, which, I mean, I don't know, a cigarette costs 1 penny or something, but you actually pay more like £1 for it because 99p goes to the government. Okay, you didn't smoke, I know. It's about the same with a pint of beer or something. They make, they cream off money, and, they're not invisible ways, they're just ways you don't think about.
Well,
There's
a reason for the sin taxes. It's to help offset the cost to society of the lung cancers or of the drunk driving and so forth.
Yeah, you would think.
There's a little bit of a logic. There's a logic behind that when the regulators are deciding which specific goods to tax. In the United States, they're considering adding. Cigarettes have been taxed for a long time because the higher the taxes on cigarettes, the less people smoke. So
it impacts the health industry too.
So it directly improves the health of the population.
Can I suggest something?
We're going a little off topic. Yeah,
I'm going to suggest that the manufacturers pay this tax.
Sure, they're the ones raking in all the money.
Yeah,
they're the ones that keep making those cigarettes I love to smoke. Yeah,
it doesn't.
I think
it's not as big a hit on behavior then.
No,
I think long before they got in bed with David Cameron, the Liberal Democrats over here were proponents of earmark taxing. In other words, the tax from cigarettes should be used to fund the National Health Service because it's a health issue. And they wanted specific taxes raised on certain grounds to be earmarked to particular utilities, same with alcohol, maybe National Health Service or whatever. And that has actually never come about. And in fact, what happens is that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the guy who handles the government money over here, simply, he moans if an anti-smoking campaign is too successful because he sees the custom duties going down.
Exactly.
So then they want to stop discouraging people from smoking because it's affecting their income.
Exactly.
But the income is not being redeployed to the National Health Service. The National Health Service is being bloody privatised. It's not quite as simple as it sounds. I would that all the money based on cigarettes went into the health service. Yeah, fine. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But it's probably because the support failed. It's probably been paid to the pool that supports failed banking institutions.
You don't want to have it to be too fixed because then you have the problem of unintended consequences, like you mentioned. The governments actually would benefit if there's more smoking, and also you don't want to have a situation where, as people smoke less, the revenues drop. At a time when, say, there might be another health crisis and you need those revenues, like flu's going up or something. We have a similar problem with earmarks for property taxes. In some areas of the United States, property taxes are, for example, earmarked for education. And you wind up with places with high property taxes having more money to spend on schools. And sometimes that's not in sync with how many schools there are in an area. So you wind up having weird distributions of school money. Anyway.
This is another question, actually. I mean, there's been a big rise in the use of e-cigarettes, not the just inhaler things with nicotine capsules, but the actual e-cigarettes. And there's been some talk about the fact that these are still slightly carcinogenic, maybe not as bad as old cigarettes. And I don't know about America, but the government over here is now going to put the same kind of duties on e-cigarettes. So
they're already
all the big
outrageously
expensive. All the big tobacco companies have got into manufacturing them, and they've priced them already at a much higher cost than you figure, because they're used to making cigarette type money, and so they're barging into this new industry, and then the government's going to get in there too, and then they're eventually going to ask, if I'm going to be taxed to the limit to smoke an ordinary cigarette, and I'm going to be taxed to the limit to have an e-cigarette, what is the point?
We need cigarette neutrality.
Yeah. Yes. Well, there yes, indeed.
You heard it here first.
Good line, that. Yeah, but it's just how long have e-cigarettes been around? A couple of years, it seems. Not that much longer. They're the high-tech ones.
Under 5.
They're already in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're already in there to sort of clean up on taxing them. So we can't win. We'll just go on doing it until the money's worthless.
And that brings us to the next point, which has nothing to do with technology or the metaverse, although it kind of does through extrapolation. And that is, what's it going to take? How do we put all of this unbalance into some form of balance that benefits everybody? As opposed to just the people raking in the money. That's what I want to know.
Really good point.
Yeah, how?
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, one of the things that was discussed at that conference actually in the week was the implications of the sharing economy and stuff like that. There's an awful lot of talk now about a new future for capitalism, as it were, based on the sharing. Well, Maria is the one to ask for this, I suspect, but based much more on the sharing economy than the sort of existed top-down system we have at the moment. I don't know how that will pan out, but I can imagine most Western governments shrieking at the very thought that something won't be top-down. But
so a sharing economy, something like the open source movement that we have now, creates a minimum platform underneath everybody. So, for example, like the Linux operating system that every company is pretty much using on the back end internally and on servers, it means that they don't have to spend the money on Unix. It's like a free public utility, and they can build on top of it. So the resources they may have spent on setting up or buying this basic infrastructure, they don't have to spend on that anymore. They can now spend on higher value functionality. And same thing in OpenSim, for example. Instead of having to spend the money on the server software, you can spend the money on community building, on marketing, on content development, instead of having to spend it on the basic coding that you're reinventing the wheel every single time because everyone else needs the same code.
Yeah.
So it's like a rising tide. It creates this minimum level of infrastructure underneath everybody and lifts people up. And I think that it's really, really good for an economy because it moves the starting line that much further towards your end goal destination. And as a country as a whole, because we can do this kind of sharing, because we have infrastructure set up to do it in the United States, in Western Europe, and now a lot of other places in the world too, we can actually do that. I think it's interesting that the Beijing company for the new Oculus Rift came to the United States, came to Kickstarter to do their crowdfunding instead of doing it over in China. I'm sure some Chinese people will contribute as well, but we're going to be benefiting a lot from them coming here to do it. We're going to be getting the early views of the model. We're going to be getting our hands on the technology and benefiting from this. So I think to the extent that a government enables this kind of sharing and collaboration, it helps grow the country. It's like investing in education. It's like investing in any kind of public infrastructure. Helps everyone do better.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's a nice idea. Have we seen it work yet in history? I don't know.
Well, it's the first time in history that it's actually happening, and I love it. I think it's an amazing transformation. It's one of my favorite books of the last couple of years is, what was it? Something about angels, the better angels of our nature. That's it. About how we, as humanity, we have become more supportive of one another, less violent throughout all of recorded history, and we are living in a time that is where people are nicer to each other than they have ever been in recorded or archaeological history.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's what else is interesting as well, because because people are being nicer to each other. It's a fundamental shift then if people are being nicer and kind of are more altruistic, because I don't know, but in societies, including going back to monkey societies even, there's always the cheats, and the only thing that language has stopped people doing is cheating. And the bigger the society's getting, the more easy for people to be anonymous and cheat the system, because it's anonymity that allows people to cheat. And if we can make a huge society of people who help each other, that don't let cheats prosper, that will
I agree. There will always be cheats, and it's a bit like criminal too. I mean, it's like people talk about pirate software and things like that. I mean, that criminal activity only exists when it's cost effective. If it's not worth people's while to. Criminals will usually only do it if it's more cost effective to be the criminal than to do it the official way. And
also it's pricing as well.
I was going to ask,
appropriate pricing for what you've got.
Yeah. Well, I did three things I'm going to mention all in one go, and they're totally different. But I was going to ask, what in virtual worlds we got things like global outreach. Our cultures are mixing, and we have people like Dancing Inc. who are, diplomatic outreach, to sort of, engage with other cultures in ways that you can't do in real life. But a rather spoiler that just occurred to me, because I was thinking of, attitudes. Right. A few weeks ago, I don't know whether I mentioned this last week, but a few weeks ago, we certainly covered the fact that the country of Denmark put the whole of Denmark at real size online on Minecraft servers. It was only to be there temporarily before they reduced it to sort of key areas. But I gathered these were open servers, and I don't know whether you read. It was about a week ago. Some Americans, and I have to say it was Americans for obvious reasons, broke into the server and literally went around destroying this whole build of Denmark.
They put the flag up. They put the US flag up.
And where they couldn't destroy it, they stuck an American flag. And there were some very odd sort of commentaries about how America invaded Denmark. But virtually speaking, that's exactly what they did. They went in, they destroyed it as best they could, and then stuck their flag over everything. Unfortunately, there aren't any oil pipelines or gas pipelines in virtual Minecraft, so I don't quite know what the purpose was. But it really makes you sick.
Were there any consequences? Did anybody track them down?
I haven't really. It's quite possible. I haven't. I would think they probably were. I haven't heard anything about consequences. I was just so outraged by the thought they'd done it. They put all this work in.
Because it's incredibly simple. Huge. We talk about high fidelity, which is really simple compared to Second Life and the other Open Sims and Unity and that. But Minecraft has to be the most simple there is. It's going back to Lego bricks. And yet it's so popular.
Well, firstly, it's a bit like, I thought that at the time. I thought, what can you do with Lego bricks? It's boring. What is amazing to me? It's Lego. But Lego inspired Philip Rosedale, actually, with Second Life. But the thing is, it's a bit like, if you're in Photoshop or something like that, if you're the where you use pixels, they're like Lego bricks. But if you got a high resolution picture, you've got to zoom in a long way before you see the pixels, the Lego bricks. And I have seen stuff built in Minecraft by sheer scale actually defies the fact it's made out of Lego bricks. So you look at it at a distance, if you see what I mean, and it really is something, the builds are really, really remarkable. They only show the Lego feel when you zoom in and get in close to the component parts. But I think Jocadia was saying this. She's got a lot of Minecraft servers, and they educate a lot of people down under, I guess, in Minecraft, and it's actually works as a kind of stepping stone to places like Second Life, where it's a bit more complex to build, be it mangling prims or whatever. What kids learn in Minecraft it's simple, but it's also very compelling, and it actually prepares them for a slightly more difficult technology later. So I think really, obviously there's a lot of gamers taking it up who, of course everything is simple. But, I think its real value is in this, it's a stepping stone to other things, because it takes you in at the simplest level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's its magic. That's its attraction, personally, because I still don't like it very much. It's not my cup of tea, but walking around with Lego bricks all around me. There's other games, and there's probably Lego games, but there are other things online that work in very similar ways. You're just using very primitive building blocks and developing as you can from there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, to see how simple things can build into being complex things. Everything is built from the simple things, including societies, I guess. We originally had very, simple societies, and look at us now. We've got huge complex conurbations and things like that. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, actually, I didn't count the first part. I was going to say we're down to about 20 minutes or something, but actually, of course, there's the first part of the recording there somewhere, so we may be really closing on time. I was going to ask two things on the behavioral thing we were talking about and stuff, there's a great deal of cultural interconnection and indeed outreach, if you think of it that way, happening in virtual worlds, even in commercial ones like Second Life. And also, one of the first talks I ever really well, no, it wasn't one of the first, but some years ago, Philip Rosedale again gave a talk to a group who I'd never heard of, but became very interested in talk to them, and it's I think they're called the Level Playing Field Society that he's a member of, and I think the underlying theme with them is that these are companies who believe in a level playing field. In other words, they might be promoting what they're doing and make it successful and everything else, but they don't believe in monopolization or being so high up that you're above the playing field, so to speak. They think an economy works best with a level playing field. And when it comes to these these difficulties with both behaviors and civil conduct or whatever we were talking about, and economic issues, just a sort of final question really for all of you, although it sounds like a bit of a heavyweight one. Is there any way that virtual worlds, the metaverse, can actually specifically address issues, a more level playing field in society, and doing something to sort of influence the behavior of people that can't move forward?
I think that's a good question, and I think a very good place to start would be to just turn all virtual worlds over to Debs, because she has so much common sense. And she has to say goodbye too. So I thought
I do have to say goodbye, and I would make sure that the people had sharing, and everybody shared, because actually that's what London is based on. Right. Everything I've got in London, I'm giving Sims to the people who've earned them, and that's kind of how it should be. We all work together, we're a team, and that's how it should be. That's kind of
right on.
Everybody for each other's benefit. Anyway, same as this program. as I love it always. I always love to come online and see you guys. And Mal, I'm sorry, I've talked over you a few times, so I'm really sorry about that. I hadn't meant to. It's just that we've always had the same ideas at the same times. Right, I've got to go.
No,
anyway.
that's what you're here for, and we kept you an hour overtime. So there you go. Thanks very much, Debs.
Lovely.
We'll spin the camera off you so that you can just disappear quietly.
Nice to have met you virtually, Deb.
Yes, Maria, it is. I'm sure we met in real life, actually, but that was a long time ago. Okay. Right, bye, guys. It's a lovely, lovely conversation.
Take care.
Speak to you soon.
Right. Good to have you as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, well, I'll put the same question to Maria, and then I guess we'll round up with that. Do you think there's any way in which a more of a level playing field and more of a equitable society, should I say, using virtual worlds? Is there anything we can think of?
Well,
that we could do. What should be done?
I think right now we have. It's getting so the access to information is getting a lot more equal because of the internet. Access to funding is getting a lot more equitable. This example of the Kickstarter out of Beijing is a perfect example of something where we have a global public funding infrastructure building up, which is the first of its in history. And then so what we're missing is access to people. So you have to move to Silicon Valley to be around the kind of people and schmooze with them. You have to go to the right conferences. And here is where I think virtual reality can make a real big difference, because we will now be able to have access to people and experiences and networks and communities in a much more kind of in-person, I am present here with you kind of way that really helps to create innovation. It helps to build relationships. And so I think that's going to be just an amazing transformative thing that we're going to see happen over the next 50 years as a result of virtual reality.
I hope so.
Right. I don't think I'll be around it. I don't think I'll be around to see that, but
we will clone you. We will clone you in a chicken factory.
The chicken.
We'll live inside.
Where'd the chicken go? Oh, it got returned.
I was about to say yay, and then you said chicken. Okay. The chicken probably got auto-returned after 2 hours, which proves the point that we've been.
Now that's a good timer, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, that's what we should do. Dump a chicken on the floor at the start of the show, like an egg timer.
We'll have it exactly.
And when it goes,
brilliant.
Time's up.
Maybe we can make it do cock-a-doodle-doo or something too.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Anything coming up in the coming week we need to know about from either of you?
For me, I'm really paying attention to Kitely, and I think it's going to be really disruptive. How disruptive? Who knows? And I'm also keeping an eye on all the hardware stuff that's happening. It's all very, very exciting. I'm super, super excited about it. But on the software side, it's just Kitely. Also, over the next couple of weeks, we're finishing the reconstruction of the Hyperica Hyperport. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more travel on the hypergrid in conjunction with the Kitely coming online. So that's what's on my agenda for the next couple of weeks.
So I log into OS Grid, I teleport to Hyperica, and you'll have a lovely gateway into Kitely for me. Yes.
Yes, as soon as they finish testing it. Right now they're still testing it, and apparently I spilled the beans. Because somebody forwarded this to me, and who wasn't supposed to. They're still testing it privately. It's not meant for public consumption.
Oh dear! So it really is. It is imminent as opposed to live.
Yes. So everyone who's here has heard it here first.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I should think it'd be a few days or something.
Well, kindly actually
coming up your
seems
way,
to be-
Petlove. Oh,
they've been really fast at getting stuff done, fixed, and rolled out. I've been really impressed, like with their
yeah.
their like with the marketplace.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm comparing it to like I don't want to be down on anybody, but things like Avination said they're going to eventually do this and eventually do that, but it seems to be a continual eventually. Whereas Kitely just seem to cop up one thing after another, and it's all done.
Well, Kitely is a lot more focused on the technology, and they've been they've been releasing the pieces of technology as they've been getting them done. So it feels like a lot of steady progress. With Avination, they've got a grid to run too. So it's not this technology isn't their only focus. They're also running a hosting company and a grid, but they also seem to be one big thing, right? And then a year goes by, we don't hear anything, and then another big thing. So when they released all this last summer with the hypergrid export permissions and everything else with the Singularity viewer, that was like the big thing that had been working on for a while, and now I assume they're doing stuff with it to get it ready for prime time. And I know other people are playing with it, but they're not releasing anything in any intermediary steps. So they may have gone on to something else, or they may still be working on it. Who knows? They're not telling me anything.
It's interesting that kind of approach, actually, because I was thinking, about high fidelity that way recently. I mean, Philip he seems to have been doing a keynote somewhere or other for every week, and demoing this and demoing that, which is absolutely great. But, I kind of wonder maybe, it's almost like too much is coming out of the box all at once, You can see, there are sometimes
got to keep up.
Things under your hat. You keep them under your hat until they're right, or until if competitors are going to start, don't hand it all to them on the plate at the beginning. But I don't know. It's interesting, the different approaches. Some people go slowly and then go in big leaps. Right. Other people make lots of small jumps. Yeah.
And with the competitors, it's a two-edged sword too. On the one hand, if you release your technology too early, the competitors might copy it. But on the other hand, the competitors might say, "Oh, you're going in direction A. I will go in direction B to be differentiated from you, because you're going after the A market. That leaves B open to me." And so that's another way of looking at it. The competitors. It's like announcing what weekend your movie's opening. Your competitors will pick a different weekend, right? So,
possibly possibly what you mentioned very early on about the Chinese company doing the an Oculus Rift competitor, but so different. May say, right, this is a market. We're not going for exactly the same market. It's a parallel market, and maybe we'll make the killing they don't. Yeah, who knows?
Yep.
Okay, Petlove, anything interesting happening in your world apart from an editing desk?
Well,
in the coming week.
Yes, smaller, more personal things as far as editing goes at this point. I'm almost done Scala's fashion show, which they'll be happy to hear. And I went to a wedding an SL wedding that was lovely last night. It was full of creatures and different types of people, so it was a real fun SL wedding. And then there is the Silicon Valley conference coming up that will be broadcast at LEA 1, which you had mentioned earlier. I think that's the most important thing I would mention right now, courtesy of View TV. That's one to watch. I think that's going to be extremely interesting. You're breaking up, but I think you're asking me if I'll be working there.
Because I heard something about it was going to be streamed out into their.
I believe it's going to be streamed in and out, but not on a standard public live stream. I mean, I'm not really sure of the setup. I do know that I will be streaming for just 1 hour on Tuesday, and Emma Way will be covering Philip's presentation on Monday afternoon at 2. So get ready to crash LEA 1 at 2. I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be interesting.
At the moment, LEA 1's the only place I know that I can actually go to see it live. So I don't know if it's actually on the web. They haven't posted it yet. Anyway, so
yeah, you might want to get there early.
That'd be great. No doubt we'll get all the recordings of it.
I think the presentation is at 2 p.m. SLT. I think it's at 2 p.m. SLT. You need to look on that. I did put the link for the conference in.
I think it's tomorrow morning. Monday it starts.
It is tomorrow.
Yeah. It actually starts at 8 a.m.
It does, but I understand the keynote. His keynote is at 2 in the afternoon, and I guess that's California time. Yeah, PST.
Yeah, so
SLT.
I suppose the focus is on every.
They have opening comments, but the keynote is in the afternoon. Yeah. So get to LEA. I'd say get to LEA 1 by at least 12 or 1 o'clock SLT, if you want a seat.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Right, so I'm just busy racking my brains as tomorrow's agenda. But never mind. Okay, well that'd be good. That should be a good event, and I imagine the whole thing will be the
it's Silicon Valley. I mean, it's state of the art, right?
They always publish it as a rule on YouTube or somewhere afterwards anyway. So, but yes, I shall try and get there early and squat, as I did indeed last Thursday, only to find it crashed. I spent 7 hours squatting, ready to go, and then the moment it started, boom.
Did they restart the sim?
The virtual floor departed from under my feet. The sim ended up being offline for a while, which is why everybody logging in ended up in the EB Center, and some of these academics weren't too happy about what they saw at the new EB.
Oh Lord, I can
imagine. Yeah. Well, that's life. Well, that's life.
That's second life.
Some people would say.
Yeah. That's what they get for putting Toy Brother in search. They all go to the community centers because they get. Never mind. Just shut me up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's about time we wrapped. So I'll say thank you again to Debs, who's now departed. Thanks also to Maria. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Mal, for having me. I always love being here.
All right, and thank you to Pet. Thank you, Pet.
Ever so welcome.
And it's just
always a pleasure.
3 of us now. I would add that if you want to catch up with news in the week, you can check out hypergridbusiness.com, which is Maria's site. All the business news about OpenSim and sometimes Second Life, and lots of hardware too. If you want general links, pointers to various posts and things, including Maria's, in fact, follow me at Twitter. twitter.com/alburns, or if you want, we haven't really covered too much Inworld stuff today, but if you want links to hunts and destinations and major events and stuff like that, but no fashion, then follow me at twitter.com/malburns, one word, _writer. So it's 2 separate feeds there. One's Second Life and one's more mainstream metaverse. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks as always to AView TV for sponsoring the filming. And if you want to watch a replay of this in nicely formatted high definition, you go to slartist.com. That's SLARTIST.com. The replay of this program will also be in the Week in Review strand when it's published tomorrow on this channel. And that's probably all you need to know. Till next week. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to hop over to the studio. Well, it's a matter of moving my mouse, really, and I'm going to cue the channel to restart. So see you later. Cue the channel to restart. So see you later. I always manage to do that. Right. Okay.